Board of Trustees for Tuesday, April the 11th. We do not have public comment tonight, and so I have spoken with the board, and we are going to adjust agenda items slightly. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the executive session. And so I'm going to ask if you guys would give us the room for a few minutes so we can talk, because what we want to do, we want to make hires tonight. We don't want to make y'all sit through the whole meeting to make hires. And so,
Appreciate
yeah, so let us have the room for just a minute and then we'll call you back in. All right, thank you. 5:42, and the board is emerged from executive session. And we were going to move to our action item 4, action arising from closed session, discussion of and request for approval to hire Executive Director of Technology and Public Information Officer. And I'm going to ask our presenter, Ms. Karina Pereira, to come to the podium.
Thank you. Board President Murray, board members, trustees, and Superintendent Dr. Howard. It is my pleasure to make a recommendation for a Public Information Officer position, Lindsay White. She is coming upon your approval to our district with extensive experience in marketing. She has previously worked as Midland Vice President of the Midland Chamber of Commerce and Project Coordinator for the Midland Development Corporation. She's currently serving as the Director of Marketing and Communications at our Trinity School of Midland. Upon approval, we do believe that she will bring various experience and build our strength and build our communications department and identify areas that need improvement in our district. So it is with pleasure that I do recommend her, and we would look to a transition time of May for her starting in our district.
Do we want to do it together?
So it is with, we do recommend Lindsay White for Public Information Officer.
Go ahead and do finance.
Oh, thank you. Okay. The second recommendation that we have is for Executive Director of Technology, Fatima Munoz. She has currently extensive experience and expertise in technology. She has previously served as the project management with the city of Odessa. She understands and has a value for technology. I think she would bring much experience to our technology department. We do value her expertise in implementing technology with fidelity. Upon approval, we would like for a transition into this position for maybe July this summer. Okay. So in the meantime, we do expect our technology to work on major initiatives and communicate with her on that vision. So it is with recommendation that I bring Fatima Munoz to the Executive Director of Technology.
We're going to have recommendation. Motion by Mr. Marquez. Second by Mr. Bishop. Any discussion? Okay, no further discussion. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. We have 6-4, all opposed. 6-1. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you.
And they are here, so if y'all want to stand and put a name with the face, this is Lindsay coming to us. This is her family. Levi, the most important one over here. Holding me looks really sharp tonight, so we're very glad to have her joining the district, and shared with the group that, you clearly were the front runner for the position and did a really good job in a very talented pool. So we're excited to have you. And then Fatima Munoz, Executive Director of Technology. Fatima is coming to us with extensive background in both technology, curriculum, and instruction. Coming from a small school, when you're doing technology, there's only a couple of you running everything, hardware, software, instructional technology, information systems. So has a background in all of those areas. So very excited to have her joining the district in July.
So welcome to MISD.
Welcome to LSD.
Well, I promise that I will only butcher your name a couple of times. I think you're good. Yes, I'm gonna mess that up. I'm gonna mess you up. So anyway, welcome, and we're glad to have both of you. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will move into agenda item 2, budget workshop. And we will have Mr. Darrell Dodds.
Yeah, y'all don't need to set this to be heard, President Murray tell y'all can be out here. No, it's up here, it's the same, except that the budget one.
So we're going into budget 102, just to throw me in the deep end.
Good afternoon, Board President Murray, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Howard. We are starting our budget workshops in what will be a trilogy of 3 budget workshops, and then we will approve the budget coming up in June. And so anyway, this is our first one. I'm Darrell Dodds, Chief Financial Officer, Arturo Valenzuela, Executive Director of Finance, and Daphne Gary, Budget Coordinator, who put this presentation together. Our agenda is our planning calendar, our district trends, and our budget updates and forecast for the end of the year, and also our budget development moving forward. Now you have to understand, this is, everything we do are estimates right now. Everything that we are going through are estimates. We are in the legislative year also, so there are changes every day in what's going on in the legislative process. And so we try to incorporate some of those things, what we think will make it through, what won't make it through, as we're going through this. And we're hoping that they have a plan and the budgets and everything done by the end of May. So we can move forward once we get into June and make those changes that we need to make. Now, being a June 30 budget year, we have really zero concrete information to go on, because we will have an estimate on values, and that'll be it, really, as we move forward. And we will not have certified values till we get to July, hopefully. Last year, we did not get our certified values till in September. So we will work through all these processes. That's why you have budget amendments and everything else through the years, because there's always something changing. And the most important part was we won't know how many students will show up until August. So those are some of the key players as you're working through a budget. And so just bear in mind that all these are estimates, and we will be even trying to finish up our estimates as we finish up this school year. Our planning calendar, I touched on a few things. This is our first budget workshop. We'll have another one in May 2nd. June 6th is we'll round up the 3 budget workshops, and then we'll have our public hearing and proposed tax rate for June 26th at our regular board meeting. Some of the things that the board will have to do: adoption of the compensation plan. We are working through with TASB, and so as they bring forth what our compensation should look like, we're looking at June 6th at that budget workshop to look at the compensation now. Our final budget amendment and our budget adoption will be June 26th. Of course, in July, then we'll look at the Chapter 49 purchase and attendance contract and delegation of authority. And then sometime in September, we will set a tax rate. And let me kind of touch on that for just a minute. We will send our estimated certified values or our certified values, whatever we get July 25th, to TEA. TEA will take a look at what our values have done, and then they will send back to us what our maximum compressed rate will be. And so we will not know that until the end of July or August. And so that is something that when we're setting our tax rate, we send the values that we get from the Midland County Appraisal District, the TEA, and then they send us back what our tax rate can be, what our minimum tax rate can be. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Murray, is it all right if I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. Do you have any estimations or in your crystal ball, do you expect those evaluations to move in one direction or the other?
Yes, and that's something we will cover.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
thank you.
we'll cover that in the assumptions as we move into the planning for the next year budget. So anyway, you wanna?
No, we can wait till we get, that's the whole point of waiting till the presentation is
Yeah.
over.
All right, so, and then our receipt of our certified values, that's what I was talking about, we'll have a little bit of information there. Now, I've been in contact with Midland County Appraisal District, and we're talking about estimates, but they don't have all their data yet either, so we will continue to work with that. We'll publish the notice and our certified values, our estimates, July 25th, as I talked about before. Some of our district trends. This is our student population at snapshot or fall teams. And so we were at 27,842. We've been holding pretty strong at that 27,800 number. It may go down to 771, it may go up back and forth, but we are holding pretty strong at that number, which is generally something that doesn't happen a lot of times, because mostly in West Texas schools, we get to October, and then you start declining enrollment. So that is something that has been unique. Now, that is enrollment. And then our FTEs, as you can see on the bottom line. You have to take effect too that, Sam Houston and stuff moved over to their own payrolls. So that was one of the reductions in some of the workforce there. This is our tax rate here in history. Since 2014, 2015 year, you can see we used to be at 10 cents on INS and $1.405 for our maintenance and operations. As we come through the new system and the compression of tax rate, our estimate, and this will change too because there's legislation out there right now to compress that tax rate even further. But right now, under current law, that's what we have to go by. And so this is something that we're looking at 83.6 and then 702 for the INS rate. So those are the two tax rates. Our M&O rate covers all of everything that we do, salaries, our maintenance and operations, our, paying electricity bill, everything. The INS rate, only debt service. We can only pay bond payments with that. So that is the only thing that we can do with that tax rate. And that is, like I said, that is an estimate for 23, 24. Our values, you can see in 2013, we were at 15 billion, or 16 billion that are certified. Right now, at our current year, we're at 44 billion. So a lot of increase, but we have had some decreases in there. You can see that we decreased last year, actually 5% the year before, sorry, 21, 22. And then the red line is where our certified values actually came in. So you can see that April 30th number, we're really conservative on that number as they move forward. And so that's why maybe in October you see us come in and we have to adjust, especially recapture, because our values have come in a lot higher than what we had estimated in the original budget. And the most favorite screenshot that everybody likes to talk about, how much recapture we've paid since 2013, 2014. You can see how that has risen. Our current estimate for this current year is 161,982 million. Estimated for next year, because of compression of tax rate And what we're estimating our values, it's showing to be 158,983,077 for this next year. So total estimated that we will pay after next year will be 983,966,073 estimated since 2013-14 school year to next year.
Don't we have offsets that aren't in here? And we paid them 161 million in recapture to the state, but the state also gave us grants that came back to
So-
MISD, right?
So you're talking about the formula transition grant? Yes, right now we do, but we don't get to subtract that off what we've paid in recapture.
So wasn't it like 50 or 60 million dollars though, was what we got back in the transition formula grant?
20, and this is going off memory, so
I got
forgive me. So in 2019, 2020, that was the first year of the formula transition grant. It was roughly around 60 million that was received that year. It's been 58, I want to say 56. It's been going down because our student population has been going up, and so that money is actually rolling into what our regular money is. But yes, so right now, the estimate right now for our current year is right at about 48 million in formula transition grant.
Which would come off that 161 as an offset.
Yeah, I mean, you can theory, yeah.
Because I just think it's important that we realize, yes, we paid 161 million into Robin Hood. Robin Hood is terrible. We can't fix it at a local level.
Right.
But we still, as an independent school district in Midland, need to focus on what we can do with what we have.
Right.
And we get a lot of money back that other districts don't get in
Yes,
the form of transition grants. So when we go about and tell everyone how Robin Hood is the ill to everything MISD is factually untrue. And it's mathematically untrue. So I just wanted it noted that, yes, we pay $161 for 161 million to the state, but the state also sends us money back to use at our discretion. That could cause us trouble in 2024 if they don't fix it.
yes.
But anyhow,
If they don't extend it, then we will not receive that money now. And so then, but these will not go down,
yes.
you know.
I just want it out to the public and voters, knowing that it's, Robin Hood is not our only issue. A former person of I see, that's, Robin Hood's the reason I have it here today.
Yeah.
But that's just not true.
So, looking at the budget update and the forecast to finish the year, you know, right now, these are our estimated revenues. And you can see how much money we, received in our tax collections, around 370 million, nearly 371 million. This is the estimated, amount in what he was talking about for the transition grant and additional funding, additional state aid for funding, which is about 9 million of that, or 10 million. No, it's 15 million. It's 15 million of this. So that is based off of our permanent school fund, the revenue we get off that, which every school district in the state gets their part of it, which is roughly somewhere around 425 per student that we receive. Other funding resources is federal, and then TRS, that's a wash there. And then our $1,882, which is this little sliver right there. Yes.
But it's important to point out, I think that the 1882 is essentially, those funds pass through us.
Yes, they
And
do.
specific to those campuses.
Right.
It's not necessarily into our general fund.
Right. It's still state revenue that we receive
Correct.
for those campuses that are
We're dog year.
Yes, yes. So as we look at what our expenditures are right now, nearly 440 million. This is what really stands out to me is if recapture's in the picture, here is what we spent on instruction, 33%. This is what we are estimated to spend in recapture at 36% of our total budget. So those are some of the things, of course, there's lots of little pies here as you go through there, but those are our two major expenditures. And as we work through, our budget and with, forecasting out and with vacancies, right now, these are some of the initiatives that we've started, working on some deferred maintenance, proactive spending for the facilities, and student items, new equipment, and future capital outlay.
We said student housing.
I know you're gonna ask me to bring a list, there's,
That's,
The technology.
it's technology stuff that we're working on.
most of that stuff we approved, a lot of that stuff we approved last month, and a lot of it will approve money now.
Right, as we're working through some of that, those are some of the contracts and RFPs that have been coming through. So, looking at our general fund balances, as you can see, we finished last year at 198. We still have right now showing at 198 million, is where we'll be, estimated finishing this year for our fund balance, general fund balance. Working on our 23-24 budget development. And to get to your, we're estimating a total increase of about 8% of where we were this current year on our values. This last year, if you remember, we had a 32.7% increase. Right now, minerals are estimated to increase somewhere around 10. The other one's about 5, so when you get it together, it's roughly about 8% on our values. Our compressed rate, currently, we're at 84.46. Under current law, we would be at 80.36 for this next year. Membership, at snapshot, 27,842. We're estimating our, student membership at 28,125. That's what we're building the budget off of. That's what we are staffing off of. So that's the number that we're going through. Attendance rate not changing too much. We really haven't seen, we started off okay, and we've dwindled down. We kind of jumped back just a little bit in the 4-6 weeks, but not enough for me to feel real comfortable raising that attendance rate up. Something we'll really need to work on. Our average daily attendance we're building a budget on is 25,424.51. And then our property values, 44 billion in this current year, looking at an estimated increase to about 48,135 billion.
I have a question. I apologize. I had to run to the voice read. But back here on page 14, it gives a list of deferred maintenance initiatives, practice spending towards transportation, student items, and equipment, capital outlay. What, on the next budget workshop that we have, can we get a list of what the deferred maintenance, that $5.9 million is paid for, and then the spending towards facilities, what facilities and what's been done at those facilities, and then transportation, I'm certain that's probably my buses.
We approved that last month.
Yeah, the student items and new equipment, but if it's proactive, so that means that we're going forward with it. And the deferred maintenance, I don't think that we've seen anything from the deferred maintenance, like a list that's tagging the dollars.
A lot of it has to do with
It was the HVACs that were approved last month, and then we're gonna have more on the board meeting this month.
Where are they at? Like, where are the
Over
money?
100,000 we approved last month.
But so can we put that all together so it's tagged, so when we present it to the community, we can say, hey, this $5 million went for HVACs and then went to SJ, then went to Alamo or whatever
We
it
got
is.
Alamo and
Yeah,
Vaughn and parking lot.
I have no idea where that went, I'm just,
Right,
Okay.
yeah, but what's here other than capital outlay is mostly what's already been approved, already been talked about. We'll approve in the next one.
but I would like to see, so if this is last year's money, we're about to approve next year's budget. Okay, well, if we've done this, and this was on our deferred maintenance, we don't need to approve any money for it going forward because it's already taken care
That's in another area.
Yeah, we go to another area with.
of. Correct.
Which,
And we do have a deferred maintenance report that'll be.
I'm sorry, will you speak up,
The
please?
board meeting next week, we have a report on the deferred maintenance and preventative meeting.
Thank you.
Well, Brandon Murray,
You're supposed to yell at me for not wearing my hearing aids today. I'm not wearing.
is it, correct me if I'm wrong, but are we getting that, would we get that information? We're planning to have a 3 budget workshops,
Yeah,
so can we get that information that's being requested on the second workshop?
yeah, we can work that in.
Okay. So,
Yeah, a lot of it will be some of the same, so we continue the same trends, but then we can, as we get more information, we'll add to it. Yes, ma'am.
okay,
I want to just show be able to show it to everyone and talk about it. Every time I drive down A Street, there's more stuff going on. The marching band field, we got racks for kicking field goals now. I mean, we're gonna have all kinds of stuff out there by
Right.
the end of the day.
Mr. Green, I'm gonna ask
Absolutely.
Mr. Johnson a question. So when we're looking at the estimation for the average daily attendance, that's a very specific number. How is that number calculated
Went around town to town.
in terms of what our estimation is?
Well, truthfully, this was, built off when we were looking at budget back in December, November, I can't remember exactly when I said, okay, this is it. And so, we were building really a 1% increase about what we started. Now, it has grown because our attendance rate has gone down through the third 6 weeks. So that gap is widened, but I feel like if we go back and we build, on the enrollment, and you have to understand, if you go out there and try to multiply this, you won't just get that number, because you have to remember pre-K is half day, and there's a lot of different variables that go into actually figuring what the attendance rate is.
Okay.
And so, because I've done it too, I've gone in there and done it, gotta go back and take all this out. So, yes, it is a very specific number, and that is an estimate.
Obviously, yes.
And so,
And
that
we
was
review
just,
that every 6 weeks once. the year
Yes.
starts.
yeah, once we start school, then we will adjust, and that's why we have budget amendments, because our attendance rate does go up, it does go down. And so, and our student growth, goes up or down. Right now, we grew this current year about 5%.
Which is like the biggest growth
It's
in
been a
20 years.
big growth in a long time, and the demographer report is really kind of hit it right on. I didn't really believe it at first, but I always had to second guess it, but, and they're predicting about a 1.9%
And that was
increase.
Going to be my question, is if
yeah.
we use that piece of evidence in this estimation.
I have to
So
be
it sounds like
extremely
we have-
conservative
Right.
on my deal, and yes, we're hoping we get there. And that will just add to what we can, but,
Okay.
right now, I did this before, the demographer report, but I think as long as we are within what they're
But it
saying,
aligns.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
We have seen a little bit improvement in attendance. Coming into the district, found we had one person working truancies across the whole district. So, haven't added positions, but took some people within that department that we now have 3 people working on that. But really looking at for the coming year, if we increased by 1%, what that brings in on top.
No, but I'll have it as
But
the
it-
next one.
Yeah, it typically pays for
it's,
people that you have out there working on it. I was on a call yesterday, across the state, everyone is seeing a very different, attendance scenario than before COVID. It's almost like COVID happened and everybody just decided I can come to school when I want to and stay home when I want to. So that's a battle that we're seeing across the state, but really thinking about what does it cost to have additional people working on truancies and attendance, and some incentives and initiatives that we can put in place. In those cases, it pays for itself.
so,
And let me emphasize that too, a different way. The money really is a net difference to us, it's zero. But what we're doing for those kids being in their seat every day is huge to us.
And then for teachers, not having to catch them up when they're not there.
I have one more question. I know that do all schools have an attendance clerk, or is it just at our secondary schools, or?
So I'm gonna say all schools, is that correct? I've
Okay.
only been back 3 months, but And then at our larger high schools, you know, used to we have 3, so it depends, it's probably based on enrollment. So, it depends on the number of students that they have, but, one thing that I've seen on our comp plan already that I've seen adjusted over the years in different places, many times our attendance clerks are the next to lowest paid position on that pay scale, but the data that they input
So
is
important.
so important.
Yeah.
And so that's something that, you know, you'll probably see us recommend an increase, because you get a good attendance clerk in there, but they wanna move up, so they take another job, and it's just kind of that revolving door of attendance clerks. And their coding is how we get funded.
And that was my initial conversation about the attendance clerk, because we personally have benefited from having it inputted correctly and not benefited from it and having to go in and sit down and walk through where we were and that we were at a doctor's appointment or what have you. And it's just so much work. So,
Well, and they've even shared when I'm out on campus is the need for training. You know, some of them have been here a while, so they know, others are new, and training is also a key.
You know, one of the things, Dr. Howard, prior to you coming, is when the district hired liaisons, that was supposed to be help to get our students back, but that doesn't seem to be working.
Right. Well, and we've talked about too, because the family liaisons are ESSER funded, that money will expire next September. So, the team is putting some metrics in place. You know, we're gonna have to decide, is this paying, you know, is it gonna pay for itself or not? But at the end of the day, when that money expires, those are positions that either have to be absorbed into the local budget, or we have to make a decision on what kind of impact they were making. But we have to have some metrics around, not just we feel like it was working. We have some campuses where they really are working attendance and seeing some improvements, and in other areas where it's not as big.
And I'll move on, but the 2,000 students that are, I mean, according to what we've shown our attendance is versus that what we're showing on the books, like 24,000, but then we're showing 26,000 for enrollment.
So,
My question is, can that be broken down? Which campuses we're missing, I mean, where these students are?
oh yeah, so reports every 6 weeks that show what percent of attendance we have in each of the campuses, and then that's data that Mr. Cedillo's team can use when they're working with principals. You know, and, back when I was a principal, we got that publicly, and we could either feel really happy about our campus, or, you know, maybe you did go to
we're
work.
gonna have the opportunity to recognize the campuses that are doing really great work, and maybe that's something that we add to our board meetings. Like this month, we're celebrating this campus the way we do recognitions for student performance.
Yes, well, an attendance matters campaign, we talked about that the other day, there's some districts around us that do that, they have a traveling trophy, you get the big trophy to keep, you know, if, you know, let's say if it's a high school competition versus a middle, junior high, elementary, and then those could be recognized at the board meetings for the top attendance winners.
I do think that Mr. Cedillo, I think let's make a note about that, if we can do that, just to say, let's consider that when we redo most of our governance. And talk about that as a constraint or as possible, something else that we can work that into.
Yeah. Way to measure. Well, and one thing that, with the strategic plan revisit, we actually have a Zoom today, so I'm getting more information, but as we work through the strategic plan, we're gonna wanna set up a workshop with you all to talk through that as well. You know, here's kind of what we're looking at, what we thought, so we listen to Mark. But then once you put that plan in place, anytime strategic work is, you know, we say we're gonna implement a pre-K, strong pre-K to literacy program. Well, how are we gonna know if it's working? So what are those metrics that we're gonna be measuring along the way? You know, those goal progress measures and things like that to know, you know, because we can put it in place all day long, but where are we gonna track, you know? So attendance is another thing, you know, if we're putting in some very intentional work around attendance and things like that, that can be reports that'll come to the board on a quarterly basis. Once a strategic plan is
And real quick comment about the, you know, as mentioned, you know, the extra funds or excuse me.
extra,
So Mr. Hodges made a point earlier that that's money we receive in the district, but that the other point that should be looked at also is that recapture it'll be a constant versus the funds that we are allotted, potentially extra to the district from the state could vary from year to year.
Yes,
Right.
it does. So, and so also you're probably touching on the formative transition grant that he was talking about. And right now it's scheduled to go away after next year. Now, there's legislation to extend that, and hopefully they will. But we will just see.
But the thing, the point being here is that when you're trying to budget, you know, and obviously some years out, or as you're thinking about it, you know, it's kind of hard to think about how you're gonna do that when potentially there could be a massive change.
Yes.
So the problem with the legislative process is that as they're changing and promising, taking away, you know, it's not actually all comes to fruition. So, cause that happened a while back when there was supposed to be a certain amount of teacher pay that was gonna be coming, and then, you know, it didn't actually work out that way to its fullest, so,
And that's something we're looking at too, what all is happening in all the finance areas, whether it's a basic allotment change that could increase. There will be increases in teacher salaries. We just don't know what that will be right now. And so that is something we're watching. There's separate bills to increase teacher salaries and support staff salaries outside of the basic allotment also. So we're watching all those different categories as we're moving through. And of course, like I said, everything's an estimate right now. So as we move through the budget assumptions and into, you know, sort of where everything will be spent, those are all assumptions just based off what our legislature will be doing and then what our values and student population and everything that goes into that will happen.
Did we run in the red last fiscal year?
Did we?
Yeah.
No.
Did we run in the red the fiscal year prior to that?
No, we haven't read.
Are we gonna run in the red this year?
No.
So your point is null and void. It doesn't matter, like, you're trying to fight this deal with Robin Hood again, that Robin Hood's a big problem. Robin Hood is a problem. We can't do anything on it at a local level. It can only be done at the state. We, as board members, independent school district, in my opinion, do not need to use Robin Hood as an excuse to underperform our kids in the school district. Other districts across the state also pay in Robin Hood and are able to have successful academics. So your point is, in the future, at some point, Robin Hood can make it even harder for us to budget. But as of current, since 20, the transitional formula grant money has been coming in the form of grants to MISD, has not been a problem. It has made it easier for us. But my whole point on it is I'm sick and tired of hearing Robin Hood be the excuse on poor performance from school boards to administrators to teachers. And I'm not trying to be rude on it, but we can do better as individuals and not blame it on Robin Hood. And the guy who was in District 5 prior to blamed everything on Robin Hood. And I just don't agree with that.
yeah, I want to say publicly, I've never once, I don't think I've ever come out publicly and said, I blame,
Not you.
Robin Hood for.
You're not District 5.
For our missing, so.
Well, and I will say, at almost every budget meeting we've had, I've made the point that we were getting this grant back, that the number wasn't as big as what it looks like. But had we not got the transition grant, which we're hoping that they're gonna keep what they're currently looking at, we would not have been in the red, or we would not have been in the red for the last 3 years.
But we've been in the red since the legislature knew there was a problem and it was being fixed. They just didn't know the problem was as big as it was. It ended up being hundreds of millions instead of like 60 million or whatever. We took the most money.
Right.
But all I'm trying to say is we've done a lot with a little bit of money, even paying in Robin Hood.
Sure.
Being underfunded in Midland that's not correct. We have more than enough money. Underfunded school districts don't turf fields for marching bands to practice on. Underfunded bands send them on county roads to march on. So we have to do better as a people to make sure that we're providing opportunities with what we have. And I believe we have more than most, and we should be grateful for that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to be rude.
So one of the things that as I'm out on campuses, I just came in from breaks this afternoon, was at Alamo this morning. I take them through a lot of the different areas of the district, and finance is one of them. One of the things I point out to them, and I've said this, the team has heard me say this from the beginning, at the end of the day, whatever we have to operate on is what we have to operate on. And we have to learn to live within that. So if that, I tell the teachers, we don't tell you this to worry about what happens if that 55 million goes away. We tell you because you run into people in the grocery store that ask you questions and to help you better understand how to answer those questions. But at the end of the day, I tell them, whatever we end up with is what we're gonna have to learn to work with. Instead of just like at home. And then the other thing I wanna point out is, we can go on record, Stuart, that we will be recommending salary increases to you. We're not ready to say how much right now because we wanna make sure, see what the legislation is going to do. And if we jump out there and then they say you have to give something else in addition to that, that could get to where we can sustain it. Because what we are seeing with the legislation, it may be funded for 2 years, but no guarantee after that. So we have to be careful and not overextend ourselves to the point where we couldn't give raises in, a future year. But we'll absolutely be prioritizing recommendations for compensation, because we feel like that's very important for our teachers and employees out there.
Well, Dr. Howard, I just want to point this out, because I'm not trying to be griping. If I'm being loud, it's because I cannot hear. Everything's wrong in my head. But so like we have, our budget this year was what? We're at total,
Current 471.
how much?
471.
Okay, 471 million. If you go back and look in 2013, if you ran that 10 years like on the population and looked at how much revenue, total revenue we were getting there compared to now versus our population growth, which is less than 2% year over year. But our revenue coming into us is exponentially greater than that. So, and this is you and I talked about it. Why is it that this last 3,000 or 4,000 students are so much more expensive to bring into the district than the 20, if we're doing fine with 23,000 students at 250 million, now we have 470 million and only have 3,000 or 4,000 more students. Why is it exponentially more expensive to educate them? And I've never
Understood that.
figured out, I've never figured it out.
One thing I was looking back at, if you look at slide 15, is back in 2016, 17, total expenditures were 228 million. Compared to recapture of 45 million. And then when we look at page 15, and then in 22, 23, total expenditures 439 million. Recaptures 161. So that doesn't completely offset the two, but we all know that one of the things that we're seeing with fuel, with produce, with food, with everything that we purchase right now costs way more than it cost back in 16, 17. So you just have the natural inflation, of fuel prices and things like that, electricity. So some of it accounts for, when because of the recapture district, and not to say recapture is our problem, but it explains that chart right there. Recapture has grown from 45 million in 16, 17 to 161 million. So when we look at the difference in the total expenditures, that is an expenditure. And that's what I explain out on the campuses. People don't think about that. They see this big $400 million budget. They don't know that 161 of it is earmarked to go back. It's not money we can spend. And so I think that explains some of the difference between 16 and 17.
So about half of the 120 million.
Right.
Yeah. Makes sense. Anyway, that's just a question, sorry.
It's fine. But it also is one of those things is, right now, in our current budget, it's taking about 36% of our total budget, so.
I'll just wait for the silver bullet. You got a whole presentation, you're gonna be able to show us the dollars leaving the classroom and where they go.
Yeah, working on it. So our current estimates right now is at 473 million, 379 million estimated, tax collections, the rest of the revenue sources. This 58 million is part formula transition grant and additional school day funding. So that would be somewhere around 9 million of that is the additional school fund revenue, and the rest is based off the formula transition grant. These are some of the budget allocations for non-payroll budget for our campuses. And this has not changed, in the last couple of years, but this is, the same as we've done in the past. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. I'm just trying to follow board policy.
Sure.
Is that good with you? All right, so I have several questions on that
Uh-huh.
side.
You wanna let him explain it first, or you?
Oh, I-
No, go ahead,
I
go ahead.
thought he was already put through.
Yeah,
some
go ahead,
things.
let's,
So back to 19? Yes. So when we're looking at this additional campus allocations for our alternative education programs, DAEP and signature programs, is that additional funds in the form of salaries and stipends, or what are those
this is
additional funds?
only in non-payroll. So
Okay,
this doesn't do with any stipends or anything, any, additional money. This is more like, like, if you look at, let's say, MAP,
Mhm.
truthfully, they only have, say, 15 students that are enrolled in MAP. Well, if you base their funding off that 15 students, they may have 150 students over there every single day
Right.
and those teachers. So you have to give them additional allocations in order for them to survive. And this is not payroll. So these are only dealing with supplies and the different things that they need for those campuses, travel, different things like that.
so within the alternative education program, which is a separate piece from the DAEP,
Yes.
can you explain what the difference is between the three categories? And then my second question would be, if we're serious about discipline and we want to support MAP, and I know we offer stipends, which I think is important, is there a discussion that we need to have around, should any other additional funds be generated towards this? Because we all want discipline to be at the top of the list, so if you could flesh that out for me, that'd be great.
I will speak to that.
Yeah.
So everything that we're doing right now, program evaluations, looking at what's working, what isn't working, in the form of not necessarily a formal recommendation, but as we build out the budgets and we're working with Mr. Dodds on, we've got to do this or that, that's gonna come in the form of an overall budget recommendation. But, for us to come and say, we'd like y'all to let us put more money in this area, to me, that's our job to figure out where the money needs to be allocated. I have some questions about this because, I've been gone for 10 years. I never saw anything like this as a principal, so I don't really know how they gave us money. But I want to dig into some of this even more because like the athletics, that 385 additional, that is new, at least since I've been here. And so I don't know really where that's going. It's not going to the athletic department, so, is it going to the campus? So these allocations went out back in the fall, I guess, as they started building budgets and things like that. So these are things that over the next year, I really want to dig into and figure out what is that 385, because, historically, everything for athletics was run through the athletic department. They paid for the transportation for athletics, they made sure uniforms were bought, things like that. So I don't know when that came about, and it may be a great thing to do, but I just right now don't know the answer to how it's utilized once it's allocated.
And that speaks to my other question, which is in this list of additional campus allocations, should there be other line items like advanced academics or,
I have departmental budgets.
Yeah, they do.
okay, so I'm just trying to understand because we have our broken out department over here of like fine arts, but we don't break it out for anything else. It just seems incomplete in some ways. And then like we have pre-K and early education as two different categories, but what is the difference? Like, I'm just not understanding this slide very well.
Pre-K is only towards pre-K, and then your early education
Can
is
be
through
through like
third
first
grade.
through third.
Yeah, well, pre-K is 4-year-olds, early education is before 4-year-olds. So your 3-year-olds, your child find, students who are served through special services, things like that. So there's more allocation that way. Does that make sense? So pre-K, right now, we don't have a 3-year-old pre-K program, so when we talk about pre-K in Midland, it's 4-year-olds. You will see us down the road recommend a 3-year-old pre-K program, because I believe the sooner we can work with students, the better.
But I
But
guess
to answer your question, this is not at all perfect.
this
There's
just
a lot
doesn't
of-
seem comprehensive
Right.
in terms of like, okay, we have fine arts and athletics on here, and we have math and you know,
So
some of our
this is-
discipline
this
pieces,
is
but I don't see
thinking-
some of the other pieces.
This is thinking about campuses. So
Right.
departments get allocations and then build what they need for their department that's not allocated up to campus. So like advanced academics, for example, if we were building a budget for advanced placement training that was gonna be paid for at the district level, that would go into an advanced academic budget.
But we're not necessarily deploying extra funds for advanced academics to our campuses.
No.
And so that's what I'm asking, if that should be an additional rollout to the campus level. Like, I'm just trying to understand where we're putting our dollars and our efforts behind any additional campus allocations that are not coming through the district filter. And so, to me, there seems like there could be additional questions and fleshing out.
Well, and like I said, some of that is handled in departments, like if, where it's advanced placement testing, different things like that is handled in the department budget and not in a separate campus budget. Your signature programs are gonna be like your programs at P's and different things like that we do. You know, this, I guarantee is not perfect, but you have to remember that also campuses ask for more than what their allocations are. And so we go through those special requests.
Okay,
And a lot of times it's granted.
it's fleshed out in that.
Yes, so, and like I said, this is all non-payroll, so a lot of stuff in advanced, academics or other parts would be put into the into the salaries in the payroll that you would need those teachers or whatever for those type of
Well,
programs.
like, for instance, drug education and all these different things
Yes.
that we've discussed as a programming deal, like, are we making sure that we're arming our campuses with the funds needed in order to advance the initiatives of the board and the administration? That's all I'm asking.
Here's what I would say to that. I have a lot of questions. You know, coming in new and like I say, this wasn't in place. It's a good start to at least have a number that you put to high school students worth this much money and that's how you're funded. But I would like a year to really figure out what we're doing, what we're not doing. What I do know is there's money there to do what campuses need to do. And so, you know, and Stephanie's heard me say this, when you need something and you're not getting anywhere, talk to us because we need to figure out what's going on. But as a campus principal receiving an allocation that's a very adequate allocation, you know, it may be that we need to work with campuses on how to utilize those funds, you know, how to prioritize. And every campus is different. And so one thing as a principal you like is here's your money and you're able to build that budget based on the needs of the campus. You know, if math is an area of high need on your campus, you may allocate more funds to math and make sure that you're, you know, buying new calculators or going to math training or something like that. Whereas another campus, it may be something completely different that's an area of need. So, but I completely get what you're asking because I've asked some of those same questions. And, you know, we have to make sure that our campuses have what they need because I see the budget reports and nobody should be without things that they need.
Just to bolt on what Katie said, that's my questions with this is, for example, that we've talked about. So we have people putting 4-year-olds in the 5-year-old program. Well, if you're doing that, how are you getting this extra money for the program? Because you're going against what the criteria of the program is saying. And that's going on different campuses. People are moving 4-year-olds into 5-year-old programs, which we talked about. So I think going at some point going forward, but we've got lots of fish to fry and lots of big things to do. But I think as we progress forward, I think the board, I'd like to see the administration provide to the board more of a drill down to say, hey, and this is where these dollars, I'm not asking him to do your accounting or do his job or micromanaging him. It is extreme oversight. But I think the board should deserve for a little while as we get going to see where those dollars are allocated and how, and make sure they're being spent where they should be being spent.
Who has the authority to spend it as well?
Sure. And every month, the year-to-date budget report, is that part of the financial system? So each month, and we can look through that more closely sometime, or even at the next budget workshop. It shows every line item basically, or function, what was budgeted, what's been spent, and what percent of the budget is spent. Campuses departments can run that every month and know, kind of how they're trending. And then, one of the things that Mr. Dodds does that, CFO and I was here didn't do, is there's like a button or something you can press to ask for more money. And I'm like, wow, that's easy. It was never that easy when I was here.
I've
But
done
I
that a
think
few.
the big
I mean,
thing that he and I have talked about is, my concern with that is some people are gonna always ask for more, and other people don't know to ask for more or aren't that way. And we have to make sure that we're being equitable and kids are getting what they need. It's not up to, do I have a principal who's out there saying, I've gotta have this, I've gotta have that, and another principal doesn't know to do that or doesn't think they can do that. So again, that's the role of a principal supervisor, is monitoring those budgets. I'm on campuses and, sometimes they tell me they don't have any money, and we know they do. So that's a matter of making sure that the money's to where they can get what they need on this.
We need to find out about that pre-K programs on there. And I have that same button, ask for more money, it's in my office, I have staples.
Right.
It says no 5 different ways.
Well, and I think too, an important thing to recognize that people don't usually know that they're doing, or that we're doing, the state funds half-day pre-K. And so, yes, there's a pre-K allotment, but when we really put pen to paper, it doesn't fully fund pre-K. So we are making an investment above and beyond with pre-K, because we understand how important it is. But that's one of those things that I think it's just important to know, when we serve our pre-K 4-year-olds full day, we're offsetting the EDA that doesn't come in, because they only are funded as a 0.5.
Well, we just don't, in my opinion, I don't want this to be, I can't remember Robert's rules, but point of getting off track, point of order. But just like, we're putting pressure on kindergarten teachers by putting pre-K teachers or pre-K kids in there, because the kindergarten teacher serves a totally different type of student than that pre-K does, and I just, is what it is. Point of order. Brian's going crazy.
All right.
What's up?
So right now, and yes, this is a bunch of data, and so our estimated budget is for that, for $473 million. This is how we have it estimated being spent right now. Instruction at 36%, 33% for recapture for next year. And then the different areas that it goes through here. So this is something that you see every month that we spend. Now, this is forecasting for next year, but this is following the same guidelines. I went ahead and did one other deal. If we took out the revenue that went along with recapture and just took out recapture, this is what our spend would look like. This would be almost 60%, 55% towards the instructional part. Now, there's other instruction that goes along with different functions as it goes through there, but the one that's solely named instructional services would be right at 54.59%. Your guidance and counseling would be at 4.3%. Maintenance is always going to be a big button at 12.28%. So those are some of the things, if you take out the revenue that would have been dedicated toward recapture, this is how our budget would look like. That's also when you look at, when I talk to other school districts and say that our payroll is only 49% of our total budget, they freak out because they're at 85%. But that's because 36% of our budget is going to recapture, and they may not be paying it. But when you take recapture out, generally our payroll has been running right at about 75% of our total budget. So those are some of the things, being a Chapter 49 school is different. So I know we answered a lot of questions before. Do you have any more questions? If not, I did go ahead and include what I've done in the past, Budget 101, which is a lot of stuff from the PEA, what we call FAD rag, it's kind of what we follow in finance, so anyway. Not, that's,
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you guys for working on this for us. Any more questions? All right, the time is 6:41, and we will move back into closed sessions in accordance with Government Code Section 551.071 for the purpose of a private consultation with the board's attorney on any or all subject matters authorized by law, and Section 551.074 for the purpose of considering appointment, claim, evaluation, reassignment, duty, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee or to hear complaints or charges against the public officer. Thank you for being here. We do not expect other business after executive session. Thank you. Okay, the time is 8:04 and the board has emerged from executive session. We have no action to take and we are adjourned at 8:05. Thank you.